how much did Nelson charge me for all of his time and all of his wisdom? Zero. So let me tell you what our team at Life Success and Legacy does. We charge our customers $0. We charge them nothing on the front end for the webinar and the boot camp that we do. We charge them nothing to present them with a plan. We charge them nothing to provide as many illustrations as we possibly can. And we charge them nothing for ongoing coaching and teaching, because infinite banking is a gift, and we are to give and share our gifts with everyone possible.
Thank you for being with us today. And we want to start by hearing your story. How did you discover the infinite banking concept, or becoming your own banker, or Nelson Nash? What came first in that for you?
Oh my gosh. Now you're dating me just a little bit. Well, I remember it was 2005, which is a couple of years ago. I'm embarking on my 20th year as an IBC guy. I remember there was a guy here locally that he literally said to me, if I could show you a way to recover the entire cost of all the cars you buy, would you be interested? I said, well, who wouldn't? He said, I'm going to send something to you in the mail. So this was on a Sunday after church. We were hanging out in Applebee's, and on Wednesday, a package came in the mail. And, I ripped open the package, and out slid Becoming Your Own Banker. And right underneath it, there was a letter that told me exactly how to read the book. And there was a bill for $22. And I looked over at my wife. I said, honey, can you believe this? I said, this guy told me about this way that you could recover the cost of your cars. And then he sends me this book, and then he sends me a bill for it. And I kid you not, I literally, you know how you take a piece of paper and you rip it, and then you fold it, and then you rip it again? I put it into little tiny pieces about that big. I went over to the trash can, stomped my foot on it, and threw it away. And I said, man, he's got his nerve. Now, this is Wednesday, have you? So Thursday, so I took the book and I literally just threw it over where my books are that I read. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and somehow this crazy book floated to the top of my thing. It was Sunday night around 10:15. I started reading Becoming Your Own Banker. This would have been probably around October, November of 2005. I finished my second reading at 1:30 a.m. I couldn't put it down. I was totally freaked out, and I thought, number one, there is no way possible that what is in this book is true. But number two, if it is true, this is what I want to do. I went in, this is there's two cardinal sins here, by the way. Number one, we tell everybody, don't read the book after 9:30 at night. And number two, do not wake your wife up at 1:30 in the morning and tell her you're changing your career. These are both bad, by the way. So that's Sunday night. Monday, I started calling this guy's office at 7:30 a.m. I mean, my heart is pounding out of my chest. I am totally freaked out. I want to get excited about IBC. Finally, they didn't get into their office till 9 o'clock. I said, I need to come in and talk about this book and find out, really what's going on with it. They said, great, Thursday of 2 weeks from now. I go, no. I said, you don't know Mike Everett. I said, it's right now. Let's get this done. Lo and behold, I scheduled the appointment 2 weeks out Thursday. I read the book 3 more times, but more importantly, I used it as a bedtime story for my wife for the next 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, So my wife knows that I am totally dialed in at this point. I mean, 3 weeks have literally gone by since I've been introduced to this whole thing. And I am now learning everything that I possibly can about dividend paying whole life insurance. In fact, I say this all the time. You know, I've talked to a number of people all over the country. I'm going on a little rabbit trail here right now. And there's probably 50% of them don't know that they're actually buying a dividend paying whole life insurance policy. And I go, well, see here. Very first sentence in the book says, becoming your own banker, the infinite banking concept is a text for a 10-hour course of instruction about the power of dividend paying whole life insurance. It's the very first sentence in the book. And I go, how can you not know it's dividend paying whole life insurance? Well, the whoever has explained IBC to them has not gone into the detail that we do as a company. But bottom line was, I finally got, and I was already a licensed insurance guy. I came out of the property casualty insurance business and got totally dialed in, changed careers. I mean, I could not quit my job fast enough to start what I'm doing. And it's been a unbelievable journey. I never, ever, ever would have dreamed up in a good dream what I do for a living. It is unbelievable.
You're not motivated about it, are you?
69 years old, and I think I just started a new job. I'm telling you, I literally in January, February, I literally will, it'll be the end of my 20th year. And I've never had this much fun. I've never been so excited to teach and educate people about the infinite banking concept and what Nelson's book has done for me, not just me and my family, but for probably 2,500 to 3,000 customers now. Yeah, it's just our business right now at Life Success Legacy is exploding. I mean, we can't stop it. It's a tsunami. So I'm going to go back just a little bit because when I first got involved in this, it just seemed like it was, you know, we were trudging in the winter and we were never going to get anywhere. And then all of a sudden, you know, when you start to learn about this, it's just like a bunch of lights flickering in your head. And all you want is somebody to go over and hit the rheostat button and the lights go up and on and bright in your brain. And that happened to me in February of 2006 when I very first met Nelson. You know, I had called him a couple of times on the phone. And of course, I called the crazy number on the back of the book and he answered the phone. It's just like, oh, come on. The guy's an author, you know, and, you know, we just struck up this relationship. But I remember going to my very first IBC, Becoming Your Own Banker, 10-hour course of instruction. And I could not get enough. I mean, I was probably frothing at the mouth and carrying on and, you know, taking notes after notes after notes. And I remember I told Linda, I said, honey, you got to go with me. I said, this is going to be unbelievable. I said, we're going to meet Nelson Nash. And so long story short, you know, I ended up going out on my own about 2 years after I got involved with a local agency because we just had a difference of opinion. We had a different path that we wanted to take. And I took many of the concepts, but not just the concepts, but the deep spiritual and scriptural meaning of what was going on in the book seriously. And it has been a journey because Nelson, and you two of all people would know this, he had this way of narrowing your path and making you feel special, making you feel a part of his life, making you feel a part of the IBC family. And, you know, we had hours upon hours of phone conversations. And of course, I remember in my first year, if Nelson was doing an event in Scottsdale, I was in Scottsdale. If it was in Birmingham, I was in Birmingham. If it was in Cleveland, I was in Cleveland. I got in my car more than you could imagine and went to wherever he was, because I was a giant bucket that wanted to be filled up, because I wanted to be one of the best of the IBC people out there. And, I just had this gigantic desire to learn, to research, to then transfer that knowledge, because, what is knowledge? It's something that God gives you. And, God used Nelson in this book, and now it's a gift. And what are we supposed to do with our gifts? Give them away. They're not ours. And so I'm telling you what, we have created this incredible process at Life, Success, and Legacy, and we require 100% of the people that come to the table to go through the process. Oh, it might be a 10-hour course of instruction about the power of dividend-paying whole life insurance. So it's a ball. I'm having a blast, and I get a ton of people that keep asking me, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? I said, well, let's see here. Nelson retired at 88. I got 19 solid years left. All of the times, all of the mentoring, all of the conversation that Nelson and I had, and you remember me calling you when Nelson passed. And you said, don't come down here. Don't come down here, because it was all happening so fast. The responsibility that I felt then to take IBC to the level that we're at now. I mean, it's only been 5.5 years, right? We have literally taken this to a level that I never, ever thought was possible. We have clients in 44 states. We have, I know, between 2,500 and 3,000 customers. And you remember when I was just a one-man show? I have 7 people on staff now. It's crazy, because I remember when Chris Bay came to work with me, he says, hey, do you want to build a business? I go, no. I said, when you start hiring people, it becomes a glorified babysitting service. And I said, I absolutely don't want to be responsible for anyone. So we started down this little path, and then all of a sudden we added Mike Crawford, then we added Shelley Forbes, and then we added Mike Kwong, and now we've got Haley David Schofer, and we just added Paige Stewart. And, these people are in Texas, they're in Missouri, they're in Nebraska. And so I'm in my office. I'm in my basement, and man, I got no overhead. I actually might be the overhead here. So the responsibility that I had to be able to really want and teach IBC became even more of a passion than you even know, David. And of course, Lee, you and I have been kind of sort of hanging out at think tanks for a number of years. And so I love what I do. But here's a really awesome thing. Now I can actually go to sleep at night. For the first 10 years, I couldn't go to sleep. It's called the infinite banking concept. Man, I would sit there and I would have a big yellow pad next to my bed. When I woke up and something popped in my head, I've got my light on and I'm writing stuff down. It's crazy. But now all of a sudden I realized I've got to turn the volume down to 0 and I've got to shut it off, because my brain goes a million miles an hour. But now I got a team that does all this thinking. Now I don't have to do much thinking. I just get to teach.
Mike, you shared that you obviously had a relationship with Nelson. Can you tell us maybe one of your favorite memories of your times with Nelson over the years?
I always remembered every year we'd come to the think tank, and I've got maybe a handful of them that I'll share. Every year we would come to the think tank. It was almost like when we saw each other, the love and the respect that we had for one another, just even seeing each other, but then the embrace, the hug was just worth $1 zillion. And then, of course, we had him 3 times to Lawrence come and do different events for us. But I remember the the last one that we did. And we put him up in a really nice hotel on the KU campus. And we were doing our event in the hotel that he stayed at. And of course, our team, we had gotten together and say, hey, what is something super special that we can do for Nelson? And, you're thinking of all these different things. And Chris Bay, my business partner, he said, why don't we have Linda paint his portrait? Now, you guys know about this portrait. And anybody who has watched This Is Nelson Nash has seen that portrait. But my wife is a watercolor artist, and she is phenomenal at, when you see this thing, you actually think it's a photograph. I mean, the lines in the face, all of the different expressions that you see. She really just does a ton of these every year, and they're all just by contract. People call her and say, hey, do my dog, do my family, do my house, do you name it. She gets to do this. And so I remember his expression and his reaction at that time. And so now when we see this on This Is Nelson Nash, it's not very hard to get choked up. I'm just telling you, because I know what it meant to Nelson and Mary. I know. And, when he would come to Lawrence, one of the things that we would do, and I don't know how he did it, but we would sit up till midnight talking, sharing stories, but it's mostly me listening and gleaning some of the wisdom from my friend Nelson Nash. One of the things that I tell my team, I go, so I think about, I had Chris and Mike Crawford sitting in my office one day, and we were battling back and forth on something that was going on with a policy or something that we needed some clarification. I said, let's call Nelson. And I called him. We spent 30 minutes on the phone just listening to Nelson. Our time together, me learning, listening, gleaning any information that I could, and the wisdom that he had, and of course now all of a sudden, 20 years later, I'm the old guy. And the responsibility that I feel to share this with, the Do brothers, all of these young guys that are coming out of the woodwork that want to learn about IBC, I feel gigantically responsible to teach them. But the thing that probably meant the most to me was, how much did Nelson charge me for all of his time and all of his wisdom? Zero. So let me tell you what our team at Life, Success, and Legacy does. We charge our customers $0. We charge them nothing on the front end for the webinar and the boot camp that we do. We charge them nothing to present them with a plan. We charge them nothing to provide as many illustrations as we possibly can. And we charge them nothing for ongoing coaching and teaching. Because infinite banking is a gift, and we are to give and share our gifts with everyone possible. It is 100% scriptural. It goes against everything that I've learned from a number of different agents out there, because there's a bunch of them that have like a monthly fee and all kinds of stuff. That's not us. Just a month ago, we had that same conversation because, obviously our business has started to expand, and our coaching of our clients, our annual reviews and end of year stuff that we do, it takes time, it takes energy. And I said, you start charging customers for this stuff. I said, I'm leaving. I said, I'll start my own deal again. So it's just the stuff that Nelson gave me and taught me. And I call it wisdom. It's a deposit. Ooh, is that a good word, or is that a good word?
Yeah. No, I get it. And that's the beautiful thing about the whole life situation, the insurance thing is like, you don't have to like gouge people,
You don't.
because you'll get paid, whatever you need,
Yeah.
and it's just,
Well,
it's
God's in
like,
charge of all of that anyway.
yeah,
And
Project
as long as you're doing it the right way and doing it with honesty and integrity, really everything else just kind of works out.
So do you have any web preps, or you just do everything face to face with folks?
Well, it's funny that you ask. In 2015, we brought Mike Crawford on as a part-time associate agent. And he came out of the tech world. And so, we're kind of marching down this road. It was great because now we had a new young guy, and it's easy for me to get all excited again, teaching everybody about IBC. And I remember teaching him and his wife and Chris, hanging out with them too. And it got to be early 2016. And we had just come home from the think tank. And I want to say that Mike might have come to that think tank, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was late February of 2016. And he says, hey, you know what we should do? We should do podcasts. Now, this is early 2016. And I looked at him and I said, Crawford, dude, nobody listens to podcasts. 2016, right? And, he has been taking care of our website since 2015. So he said in our meeting at the end of February, he says, hey, why don't we put 3 podcasts on our website and just try it? I said, hey, whatever. So we recorded 3 like 20, 25-minute podcasts. And I wish I was kidding you. We got 40 new clients in the next 4 months. We got to them, because we had like probably 60, 80 phone calls out of that. Because we didn't really know what we were doing with the whole podcast thing. And the next meeting, I go, hey, weren't those podcasts a great idea? I know this will sound strange, but we have done 0 marketing since 2016. We do podcasts. In fact, during COVID, you know what we did? We did chapter by chapter in podcasts. And obviously some of the chapters are longer than the others. So we would break them down to either maybe 2 or 3 different podcasts. We have the entire book on podcasts, breaking it down just in a conversation mode. What does this mean? Why do you do this? What's interest rates? What's a dividend? Why do they pay dividends? What's the interest rate that the company charges? How do you take a policy loan? How do you make policy loan repayments? I mean, you name it, we do it. But we break it down to where we put it in the you and me level. Because people don't want to be confused, and they want to work with some people that actually know what they're doing, that aren't going to sensationalize it. We're telling them from gut level. And then what we're doing is, just like what you've done the last 2 think tanks, we share our policies. See, if I'm going to share something about my relationship with the Lord, do I need to share part of my life? Part of my life with IBC is all the policies I have. I got 22 policies now. I've never been so excited to make policy premiums in my life. But then, the next question out of somebody's mind when they go, well, what's the rate of return? Well, I say, well, let's see, wait a second here. Let's go to page 3 here. This book is not about investments of any kind. It's about how one finances the things of life, which can certainly include investments. It's not about rates of return. As time goes by, interest rates are up and interest rates are down. But the process of banking goes on no matter what. Come on. It's just a blast, because here's the thing. And so wind current. Ooh, how important is that wind current? You got the mortgage, you've got the car loans, you got the credit cards, you got the student loans. You're fighting that wind current. But what happens if all of a sudden you get rid of that and the wind current's going with you? Now we can talk about rate of return. It's about making those deposits into your own system, the infinite banking concept, whole life insurance. You just put money back against the loan on the policy. And then once you make your premiums and your policy loan repayments, you can calculate a rate of return. My wind current right now is about 155 miles an hour. and I ain't doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if the money's not going one way out the door, then then you can accumulate so much money from your current cash flow.
Just your basic cash flow. One of the things that I share when we do a webinar, and we usually do, page 1 to page 50, and we talk about that wind current. So I said, think about your house, your cars, your credit cards, student loans, or business loans. I said, I'm going to give you an average number. It's going to be between $2,000 and $3,000. Those numbers right there. It's actually more than that, but I need people to be able to relate to the numbers. So I said, let's just take $2,500 for a month. If you're used to pumping $2,500 a month out to the local financial institution and not thinking twice about it, and we created a plan through the infinite banking concept where you got rid of that in the next 3 to 5 years, and you were putting $2,500 a month into your own system. How much is that? That's $30,000 a year. Are you getting to put $30,000 a year into your 401k or IRAs or any of that mess? But once you put it in here, do you have access to it again and again and again? So we teach people how to utilize their system multiple times. Grocery store. It's turning the inventory. Your cash flow just happens to be the inventory. How many times do you want to turn your inventory? If you own the grocery store, the only way to make a profit is to turn the inventory. That's it. So what we do is we show you how to take your own infinite banking system, create your own grocery store, create your own IBC plan, and then we show you how to turn the inventory multiple times. Goes back to some basic stuff. Think long-term, capitalize generously, don't steal from your system. This stuff's just, it's in me. I can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. I'm telling you.
It's in your DNA, man. Come on.
You have no idea, and we go back to the basic principles. Quit doing business with banks and rethink your thinking. I'm telling you, we do this every single day. This is all I do. I'm an IBC guy. Technically, I'm a life insurance guy, but I teach the infinite banking concept. Becoming your own banker is it's a process. It's a strategy. It's something that you can actually utilize from now till the day you die.
Everything goes back to the book. Like you said, it does not have to be sensationalized. It is all there in the book. And that's all that you need. That's all you need is becoming your own banker.
There's a 92-page book that I require everybody to read. End of story. Give me $20.
Yep. Yep. And I love that you're charging for it too. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me circle back to your first story. So when you got that appointment in 2 weeks, did you take a $22 check with you?
I did take a $22 check with me. I could not pay for the book fast enough. And so this is funny because when I got my very first case of books, this is a true story. I wish it wasn't, but it's just part of my IBC journey, right? So I thought, look at this. I'm Mike Everett. I'll show people how to get this done. I gave away 72 books. Didn't charge a dime for them. You want me to tell you how many cases I closed? Not one. Then I sold my very first book. The guy actually read it, and I closed my first case. And I thought, whoa, there's something to this. Skin in the game is what they call it. If you ain't got no skin in the game, guess what? Chances are if you give it away, it is not going to become a priority for them to read the book.
Well, 32% of becoming your own banker talks about what? The human condition.
Oh, that's right.
And so skin in the game is that's just a part of that.
It
that
is.
Human condition.
It is. Well, and we all got it, and it's an ebb and a flow, right? I mean, there are times when I'm still immersed in my own learning with IBC where I go, I'm not doing that. It really goes back to some of the principles. And you've heard this story, David, probably a number of times. When I first got immersed in IBC, I literally was leaving a career where I was very successful, and I was starting a brand new career that I knew nothing about. And I was making zero income. So I remember when I finally realized that I needed to do this, but I had no money. None. So I went down to Pat down at the bank and I said, hey, I said, I need to borrow $33,000. He goes, what for? I said, I'll tell you about it another time, but you know how I've always done signature loans down at the bank? I said, I just need $33,000. So I bought a $20,000 policy on me. I bought a $13,000 policy on my wife. Well, I'd already kind of created a little plan, and we were going to pay off 2 car loans and a little credit card debt. But, I was an agent. So what did I get? I got a little commission, and then I also got the policy loan. So you know what we did? We went on vacation for 10 days. And then I got back and I was still in the mode, this and that and everything. So I'm going through 1 year. Did I make any policy loan repayments? I did not. I got to my second year, and did I have $33,000 available? I did not. I hadn't put any cans of peas back on the shelf, not one. So I went back down to the bank and I said, hey, Pat, I said, I need to borrow another $33,000. And he goes, what for? And I said, I'd rather not tell you about it, but I needed to pay my whole life insurance policies. And if I'm not going to tell him what it really is, he said, whole life insurance policies? Are you kidding me? I said, no. I said, but I tell you what, once I pay those premiums, I'll be back here in the next 2 weeks with about $20,000. So I literally got $33,000. So I'm $66,000 in debt at the bank, right? Came back with my 20, put it down on the 66,000, and I'm off and running. So I'm shuttling as much of my income towards the debt at the bank now. And we got to the end of the second year, and I have literally put not one can of peas on the shelf the second year. So these are cardinal sins of IBC. Everybody who knows IBC knows that this is a cardinal sin. And then we were sponsoring Nelson and Mary at an event. And, in the email, there was about probably 10 families that were going to sponsor him. And he was going to come, and we were supposed to sign up for either breakfast, lunch, or dinner on one of those days that we were going to be at this event. And so I am freaking out. I've borrowed the money to pay the premiums. I have made a 100% policy loan, and I have not put one can of peas on the shelf. So I am freaking out. So I signed up for breakfast on the day that we were going home, because I'm going, I've got to somehow conjure a story up for Nelson. So I'm going to be sitting across the table at breakfast with the godfather of IBC. And what kind of story could I possibly make up? I woke up at 4 a.m. that morning. I can't put together 2 thoughts. My wife got up, I think, around 7 because we were going to take him out at 8:30 in the morning. And she goes, what in the world is wrong with you? I said, honey, I have got to confess to Nelson that I've broken all of the principles. And so I remember we went to breakfast, and you know how when you're internally freaking out, I remember having conversation with Nelson, but I was like looking through him. I couldn't really focus because I'm still thinking about what I'm going to say. And Mary and Linda are just going at it. I mean, they're just having the greatest time. I mean, you would have thought we were best friends. I'd only known him for like 2 years at this point. So we're done with breakfast and we're walking back to the hotel, and I stopped Nelson on the sidewalk. I said, Nelson, I have broken all of the principles. I haven't thought long term. I haven't capitalized generously. I've borrowed the money to pay the premiums, and I've stolen every can of pea off the shelf and haven't put one on the shelf. He literally put his hand on my arm. He said, start putting the can of peas on the shelf today. And he turned and he walked down the sidewalk. I said, come on. I said, it can't be that easy. He said, try it. This is January of that year. I made my first $250 policy loan repayment the next month. The dial in my head got turned to 10. 210 degrees is just hot water. 212 is live steam, and it creates power. Everything flipped in my brain. And I realized how to get multiple uses of every single dollar by putting the cans of peas on the shelf and turning the inventory. My policy loan repayments today are $5,000 a month. It changed my life. It completely changed the trajectory of what happened with Mike Everett and the infinite banking concept with one comment. Start putting the can of peas on the shelf today. It's that simple. But you know how many people violate it? All of us.
No, that's good. But you talked about violating three principles of IBC. You know, not capitalizing, stealing from your system, and thinking long term. But you also broke the fourth rule. Also,
I was still doing business with banks. Yeah. So let me just tell you, it took me because I'd taken 5 steps backwards. It took me a little over 5 years to get debt free. But if you said to somebody, what if I could show you a process or a strategy where you could be 100% out of debt in the next 5 to 7 years without changing your cash flow $1? What do you think they'd say? They'd go, "You're crazy." And I go, it's part of my story. It's just part of my story.
Genuine people are the ones that don't sell a product. They sell a lifestyle, and they do it themselves. And you can tell the folks that don't do it. They talk it, but they don't do it.
I get agents calling me from all over the country, and I go, first thing I ask them, I said, number 1, have you read Nelson's book? And number 2, tell me about your policies. Tell me about your family policies.
Well, I get phone calls periodically, and they want to know, hey, listen, I live in Kansas, and I'm looking for a practitioner. Can you recommend anybody? I say, no. I said, go. I don't even know how many are in Kansas right now. I promise I don't. But it's like, look at the list and just check out their bios and and their websites and interview them. And he goes, well, what do you mean interview them? I said, well, number 1, you need to read the book, and number 2 is when you interview somebody as a potential practitioner you want to work with, start asking questions about the book to see if they even have the answers for the book. Because some of the, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here, but that's important. Number 2 is talk to them, ask them how much stuff that they own and how do they use it. That's how I recommend people by saying approach them with those 2 questions.
My first couple of years, I used to get hacked off at you because I didn't think you were. I'm just telling you this out loud, but that you weren't recommending us. And then I realized, you know what, God's in charge of all this anyway. And if people come and they interview us and they do their due diligence, and I just was sharing with a gentleman out of Greenville, South Carolina, just this week. We had an hour-long Zoom call this week. And I told him, I said, if the people are supposed to come to you, they will come to you. That's just the way it is. I said, I got a great story. I went to an event down in Dallas, and, I'm high-fiving and fist-bumping people and selling Nelson's book. And 8 years after I sold this guy this book, he called me. He's literally said to me, he said, "Mike, why didn't you tell me that I needed to read this book? This is 8 years." And I said, "Henry," "you're the one that paid for the book." He said, "This is unbelievable." I created a plan for him. He lives in Southern California. And, in Southern California, they're in debt up to their eyeballs out there. We got $2.1 million of debt gone in 6.5 years. $21,195 of monthly outgo. But we got rid of $1 million of it in 12 months. That's all you got to do. But then the key to it is, does your practitioner really understand what's going on in the 92 pages? Number one. Number two, is he practicing IBC? And number three, are you going to get annual reviews? Or are they just going to sell you and say, hey, good luck, play hard? We have found on the back of my business card is our mission statement. It says, to inspire financial hope and freedom by revealing little-known truths about money while investing in trusting long-term relationships. That long-term relationship's a big deal to us. So we take, 10-hour course of instruction about teaching people about, so we're going to know who you are. We want you to know who we are. I want to know who your family is. I want to know if your grandkids. I want to know everything about you. Because if you're going to turn around and put $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 in an IBC plan, the word trust better be high up on the list. But the fact that we are sharing little known truths about money, oh, by the way, what does the financial world think about this thing?
Well, can I send you a new book that doesn't look so beat up?
I got a bunch of them over here. You know, it's funny that you said that, because I was on page 72 last night and my binding is coming out. I got super sad. I got super sad because I was looking down at the bottom of my book and I'm going, gosh, I'm going to have to go in and underline and highlight a whole brand new book.
Just take the book and cut the binding off and put a spiral binding on it.
Well, I need to actually go through another book and act like I've never read it before. That's really, that's been my, that's been on my radar for about 1 year now. And it was right after I left the think tank last year. By the way, I'm kind of excited that we're bouncing around now.
Different locations.
Yeah. I am kind of missing the Brazilian steakhouse down around the corner, though. You know, where you get full on meat sweats, you know, the night you get home. No, I'm excited about, you know, where IBC is going. When Chris Bay came on board with me in 2014, he was just a client. I said, hey, I tell you what, let's go to the think tank. I remember calling you and calling Nelson, said, hey, I want to bring one of my clients. He wasn't a business partner at this point. I said to him, you know, this thing that we're doing right now, it's going to seem a little foreign. You're going to meet a lot of people. You're going to meet a lot of people that know what they're doing, and you're going to meet a lot of people that don't know what you're doing. And I'm just being honest now. And, but I'm going to tell you, now this is 2014, this is 10 years ago. I said, Chris, we are on the front end of a tsunami. I said, I cannot explain to you. I said, I've got this gut feeling in me that says if we continue to keep our path tight, stay in the book, 92 pages, teach IBC. I had no idea that we would be where we are today, that I would have, I've got 7 on my core team. I've got probably about 10 associate agents scattered throughout the United States. If you would have told me this is where I'd be 10 years ago, I'd say, no way. And I told Chris, this was about 6 months into him getting his license and starting to kind of hang out with me. I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you on the side of the nest in about 12 to 18 months. I'm going to tell you to flap your wings as hard as you can. And then I'm going to push you out and let you go start your own gig. It didn't turn into that.
No, you talk about that tsunami. You know, Carlos Laura, you know, coined the term gaining or building the 10%, because you reach that tipping point, which I do believe we're at the tipping point right now.
We're really close. I'm just telling you, because when we do our boot camp, we have between 50 and 60 people at our boot camps, and we do them all online. We are actually doing one in Houston in March, and we're doing one in Hawaii. We're probably going to have 100 people at the one in Houston, and we'll probably have 80 people at the one in Hawaii. We're actually coinciding it with the Leaders Conference from Emeritus. We're going to do it the week before. We're taking our entire team. Yeah, it'll be a blast. I mean, this is a chance for these people to actually see our team face to face and, do some neck hugs and stuff like that, because we are real people.
As we wrap up, I just want to hear from you, what does the infinite banking concept mean to you?
It has multiple meanings, but really it's creating the flexibility and the freedom that people have in their personal cash flow system. If people want freedom, if they want flexibility, they need to look in to the infinite banking concept. You need to find a coach. You need to find somebody who is an authorized practitioner, somebody who is immersed in this is what they do. And I think that when you find that person, they will be able to help you think through, where is my money coming and where is it going? And when you finally see that you can reverse the direction of dollars that you're spending out the door and show them how to have them come in the door, it is life changing. And then the freedom that you have to be able to do the things that you've always dreamed of. This is why my mission statement says we want to inspire hope and freedom. You think about it. When we were young, think about all the things all the big plans that we had, the goals we had. How many people have actually reached them? Not very many. And so we show people how to do that and get the freedom and the flexibility to be able to create the kind of life that they always thought was possible. And you can do that through IBC.